What's up, guys? It's Shots the Rat here with kind of an unexpected update regarding progress on the current version of the game. As you can see, this is a packaged version of the game that by now should be made available on my Discord for you to play and to kind of just go into the practice range, run around, and see what it feels like to play Sonic and Shadow with their kits. And I'll put descriptions in the Discord on keybinds, their abilities, maybe some cooldown related things, but cooldowns are really short for dev purposes, for debug purposes. A fair warning to anybody that sees this and wants to play it and have like a genuine experience: don't play this with that mentality, because it is really very unstable. And Shadow, for example, between Sonic and Shadow, Shadow is the most unstable in terms of things just kind of breaking, controls locking up, and stuff like that. I will say a workaround for any control lockups or issues like that is to just respawn your character with the character select, which is the H key on your keyboard. But yeah, so I just wanted to go over why we have a packaged version of the game right now. Basically, we ran into a lot of issues while working on this version of the game, and I spent a week taking notes on some practices, best practices when it comes to developing an online multiplayer game, PvP specifically, and learning about things like framework and, like I said, best practices. And so what happened is, when I finished taking those notes and was ready to start kind of retrofitting a lot of that knowledge into this current build, some things came up that were concerning to me. And one of those things was that the editor itself was having more frequent crashes than normal. And so, among the other issues were difficulty retrofitting the framework stuff that was kind of necessary for an online game. Things like a proper HUD system, a proper save system, because it was all very cobbled together. And when it comes to this game, I definitely am trying to go for best practices, most optimized setups for a game like this. I'm trying my best to do that. Obviously, it's not easy. It's very difficult, because when you get down to the kind of meat and potatoes of a game like this, you're looking at a situation where you're going to want to start with the framework in mind. And so, with that being said, this leads us into why I have decided to kind of just package this version up and then allow people to play it and get their hands on it. The plan was to have basically a prototype 1 where you got to play this version, you got to play online, you got to play King of the Hill, and it would be 2v2, and you'd have access to this practice mode. You'd have access to the multiplayer mode, some settings. You could change your username, you could see your stats. We'd have a small, short little tutorial, and there'd be what felt like the beginnings of a game. Obviously, that's not what was able to happen, so instead, this has now become more of a proof of concept build of the game. So you can go into practice, like I said, play as Sonic, play as Shadow, see how their systems work, see how they play, and get kind of a general idea of what we'd like to do for an actual prototype version of the game. And so what we're going to do now, because that we've decided to take this new path, is start a completely fresh version of the game. We're going to start from scratch. And it sounds daunting to take what is essentially 7 to 8, maybe 9 months worth of work, and to just say, okay, here you go. and we're going to now start over and reset everything. The silver lining is that we have now lots of knowledge and understanding of what's expected of us dev side for a game of this type. We have now an idea of how we can execute a framework for a game like this. You know, what we did first when we first started the project is we made models, right? And then we went into Unreal Engine with those models and we started to work on the characters. So in terms of the timeline, the things that happened first should have happened probably near the midway of development for this game. The things that should have happened first was the framework. Setting up a solid framework. We can join games, we can host games, setting up online to be more functional with like the animations and stuff. The framework for that concept needed to happen first, and we didn't do it first. We made characters first, we made their kits first, and so because of that, a lot of other things were made during that process. A lot of focus was placed in other areas. We made menus, we made player controllers, we made all this stuff without thinking about the online framework. And so when we finally got to the online framework, a lot of things were already made and established. And when we finally got to start figuring out the actual online systems and how were we even going to do online, the save for the project itself underwent a lot of what I like to call open heart surgery, which basically means we did a lot of work in Visual Studio to try to get certain systems to work in the engine, because we started with trying to figure out online solutions that were kind of like plugins. Those didn't work, so we had to take the game into Visual Studio to unplug those systems and undo the things we had implemented, and we did that a few times. And quite a few times the game wouldn't even, the editor for the Unreal Engine wouldn't even launch the save. That's how bad it got. That's how fucked it got when we were trying to figure out online solutions. And so that's why we went into Visual Studio and we did all this stuff to try to unfuck it. And then, you know, eventually it worked. We were able to go back into the editor, work on the game. But what I think happened is a lot of stuff, you know, might have gotten, you know, messy in the save file with regards to what I'm, you know, talking about with Visual Studio and the online stuff and working on the characters instead of the framework first. We didn't crash a lot in the editor, but it started to crash a little bit more frequently. Not enough for me to say that it's unworkable, the editor, but it was crashing enough for me to feel concerned that we might be on the road and on the path towards crashing so much that I can't even work on the game. And so there were just these little signs appearing, and, you know, I've worked enough in editors, not, you know, engine editors, but game editors, to know that when these signs start to pop up, you've got to make an executive decision. Because if you're going to work on it, you have to accept that you're going to be working with something that is suboptimal, unstable, and you're going to produce a less promising product as a result. And so being someone who has taken that path in the past, with like map editors, for example, I've decided this time to opt for the other path, which is to kind of just cut my losses, start from scratch, and let's try to make this a bit more optimized so that way we don't have crashes. So yeah, you're getting now Project Fighters, the proof of concept build, and you'll be able to go into practice. Like I said, play as Sonic and Shadow. The build will be available on the Discord. You can download it from the Drive link, and you can also see kind of a description where I lay out the controls for Sonic and Shadow, their abilities, what you can and can't do. You'll also be able to attack some bots. I set up some bots with health bars, and they'll respawn. You'll be able to respawn. The health system and the ring system is also kind of non-functional. Shadow is able to take damage and then pick up rings. Sonic is not. And so again, just all part of the reason why I wanted to start from scratch is to, you know, set up these systems to be more reliable and to set them up in a way where I can have more control over them. a lot of the work that was done in this game was done, by, watching videos and almost mimicking what they were doing and then learning what it meant afterwards. And I think for a proof of concept, I think what we have right now is pretty solid. It gives me the confidence going into working on an actual prototype that we'll be able to make something really special. I'm still motivated. I'm still excited, despite this kind of setback that we've had here. The other thing too, though, that I think is going to be worth it is we are going to go ahead and fast track new models and kind of an art style. That means what we're going to do is you're going to get Sonic and Shadow in this proof of concept build. And for the prototype, we're going to go ahead and fast track a Team Sonic and a Team Dark character set. So you'll get Sonic, you'll get Tails, you'll get Knuckles as Team Sonic, you'll get Shadow, you'll get Omega, and you'll get Rouge as Team Dark. And we're going to try our best to really make these models look good, or at least as good as an indie fan game kind of take can, with solo dev Psycho behind the wheel. Okay, so hopefully it's fun though. Hopefully you can play this and kind of get an idea of what we're going for, and you can get excited for what the future holds when you finally get to play in a 6v6 kind of multiplayer battle. And you can kind of imagine what it would be like playing these two characters, having 6 other people on your team playing other Sonic characters, them having their own abilities, what that might be like, what that might feel like. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Like I said, if you want to play this, definitely go into it with the understanding that this is very unstable. This is a proof of concept build. You're really not going to do anything other than run around and maybe beat up on some bots, test the kit, see how it feels. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys later.